Head to the craft store and grab some white yarn, a sheet of black felt, and get out your scissors and craft glue. Start by cutting 5 pieces of yarn to equal length. Mine were about 9 inches long. Arrange them into upside down U shapes on your pillow. I placed one in the center of my pillow and then one in each corner, spaced evenly from the middle. Next, grab your craft glue. I'm using this tacky glue from the craft store, and glue each of these U-shaped yarn pieces into place. Once these are secure, cut a bunch more yarn pieces to about the same length. Next, cover the inside of one of your U-shapes with glue and press your yarn pieces down, following the outline of that first piece of yarn. Now grab your scissors and trim the yarn ends so they're all even and straight along the bottom for a nice, neat look. Then it's just repeat, repeat, repeat. Move to the next U, add your glue, and fill it with yarn. This part is super easy once you get going, and it would be a great project to do while you're watching a Halloween movie or chatting with friends during craft night. Now let's make these little yarn shapes come to life. Cut out small black circles from your felt. These do not need to be perfect, just aim to keep them all close to the same size. Glue 2 circles onto each of your yarn shapes and suddenly you have little ghosts. How fun is that? A plain throw pillow that was just sitting around is now full of adorable yarn ghosts. I just think they're so cute. I love how my pillow turned out, and I think it's the perfect DIY to get into the Halloween spirit.
To begin my project, I have my pillow cover here, and this is just a standard 18 by 18 pillow cover. So when I do my design, the zipper enclosure is at the bottom of my pillow. I'm measuring out here how big I want my design, and I'm thinking I'm going to go no bigger than 11 inches across, because when I put the pillow in, I want the sides free. So 11 inches across and then 11 inches in height as well. I have pre-cut out my pumpkin template here just on some cardstock. I do have this template available on my website, hollygrace.ca, if you want to print out and copy this design. So I have my pieces here, and I've numbered them in the order that they go in so that I don't get them mixed up. We're just going to move the template aside for just a minute here, and we're going to bring in our first piece of fabric. This is just a really nice light linen cotton fabric, and this is what I'm going to be using to trace and cut out my large pumpkin. So I'm just using a marker to trace around the pumpkin cardstock template, and then I'm going to cut out my pumpkin from this fabric. I use a pair of fabric scissors just to cut out my pumpkin. After my pumpkin is all cut out, I just took a pair of utility scissors and then opening them not fully because there is a plastic piece in the way right here, I take the edges of my fabric and then using my scissors I just frayed the fabric a little bit to give this pumpkin a very primitive rustic look. For my second layer of my pumpkin, I'm using this old sweater, and I like this one because it has that cable knit design down the middle. So what I'm going to do is, just so it's easier to work with, I'm going to cut off the front of the sweater and get rid of the back layer because I don't need that. I'm going to lay out my template on the sweater, placing the middle piece of the pumpkin over top of the very thick cable knit design because I want that to be the middle of my pumpkin, and I'm going to work out with the pieces going out from the middle. Then I'm going to use my marker again, and I'm going to trace around the pumpkin and then again cut out all my pieces of the pumpkin. With my pumpkin pieces all cut out, I can now start to put my pumpkin back together on my pillow, but we're going to put the majority of the pumpkin together off of the pillow first. To put this pumpkin together, I could certainly sew it, but I prefer to use glue for this method, so I'm actually going to be using speed sew. I just find it a lot easier with all these tiny little pieces. So to use this, what I do is I just put it into a plastic container, and then I use a paintbrush to paint it on to all the pieces. So I just start at the end piece, and then I just brush the glue on all over the knit sweater, and then I put it in place onto the canvas fabric. And then using my hands, I just apply firm pressure to get it into place and hold it while the glue sets. It doesn't take long to set. That's why I like the speed sew. It dries really quickly. I repeat this process till all the pieces are glued on, and then I'm going to bring in my pillow cover here, but I want to place in a piece of paper in between the layers just in case the speed sew soaks through any of the fabric. I don't want to glue my pillow cover together. So I'm going to again use the speed sew around the pumpkin, but this time I'm going to leave a finger width border because I don't want to glue down those nice frayed edges that I made. So I want that nice finger width border around my pumpkin so the frayed edges kind of sit up a little bit. I want to make sure I put some speed sew in the middle of the pumpkin as well. And then I place my pumpkin on the pillow cover and again apply pressure to stick it into place and just hold it while the glue sets. I'm going to add in some little bits of twine here just to give a little bit of embellishment. And again, I'm using the speed sew for this, just gluing it into spots where I feel like the twine would look nice. I work it underneath of the fabric so that it looks like it's coming out from behind the pumpkin. With my twine in place, I also thought a little tiny banner would look nice, so I did make this with my Cricut and some heat transfer. If you don't have a Cricut, you could also use a fabric marker or some fabric paint on just a piece of canvas cloth fabric and then glue that into place as well. With our pillow finished, all we have to do is put in an insert and then we can put it on display in our home. I love the nice touch of fall this pillow adds. It totally suits my decor, and the best part is that I made it myself.
You're going to start with some inexpensive cotton fabric. I picked this up at Joann. It is really festive. We're going to start by folding the fabric in half so the right sides are together. I cut out a circle that's about 18 inches in diameter out of newspaper. Then I'm just gonna trace around it using a marker. This marker line will not show at the end of the pillow, so just use something that you can see. At the very top of the pillow, I'm using a little piece of paper here. This is about 3 inches wide, and I'm marking off a point here that's going to be the top of the ornament. Now I'm cutting everything out. You wanna cut through both layers of fabric when you're doing this. Leaving both pieces together like this, I'm using some quick dry fabric glue to attach them together. I'm going to leave the top open so that we can stuff this pillow when it's all dry. Now leave this to dry. Quick dry fabric glue will be ready to work with in about 30 minutes, but if you're using regular fabric glue, you might need to wait a couple of hours. Everything is dry, so I'm going to turn it right side out. And I need to fill this pillow. I just picked up some polyfill from the craft store, grabbing little pieces at a time and stuffing them into the pillow. I want to make sure I get into all the edges and make this a nice full and comfortable pillow. Once the pillow is full up to the top, I need to glue the edges together. So I'm going to grab a couple clothespins and the fabric glue, and I'm just going to fold in the seams and glue these together. It's helpful to do the round part first, and then you're also going to want to glue the top of the ornament together as well. Now we're going to let this dry again before we add our finishing touches. This pillow is coming together. It's starting to look like an ornament, but it needs a top to it. So I picked up some really thick metallic ribbon and I cut out a piece that's going to wrap around the top of the ornament. This is going to look like that little silver cap that sits on top. So I'm just going to use some hot glue to attach the ribbon to itself and also attach it to the fabric so it's not moving anywhere. The final step is to add a hook to our ornament, and I am using a silver pipe cleaner to do this. Just use a little glue and attach it to the inside of the ribbon. And that's it. We've got an ornament pillow. This no-sew pillow was so easy to make. I made 3 of them. They're actually really comfortable and they're very durable. You can use these on your couch in your home this Christmas.